Part 1. Powerful Allies, Edward and Neville. Princely to behold, of body mighty, strong and clean made. Sir Thomas More. Yet there was magnanimity in him, and if he is not quite a tragic protagonist, he is a memorable human being. He refused to admit that there were disadvantages he could not overcome, and defeats from which he could not recover, and he had the courage and vanity to press his game to the end. Paul Murray Kendall. Their relationship, like their division of authority, was amiable and undefined. Paul Murray Kendall. Chapter 1. Yorkshire, 1904. Edward Deravenel galloped ahead at great speed, leaving his brothers behind, rapidly gaining the advantage. He urged his white stallion forward, oblivious to the icy weather, the lash of the wind on his face. At one moment, half turning in the saddle, glancing behind him, Edward laughed out loud, his hilarity filling the air as he waved to his brothers. George, endeavouring to catch up, his face grim in its determination. Richard, struggling even farther behind, yet laughing and waving back. But then he was the youngest, and much less competitive, the baby of the family, and Edward's particular favourite. For a split second, Edward considered slowing down and allowing Richard to win this impromptu race which had come about spontaneously a short while before, then instantly changed his mind. George would inevitably contrive to finish first, by pushing Richard out of the way in his overriding desire to be the winner. Somehow, he always managed to do this, no matter what the circumstances, and this Edward could not permit. He strived to make certain Richard was never humiliated, never diminished by George, who was older than Richard by 3 years, and frequently endeavoured to lord it over the younger boy. Edward continued at a gentler pace along the narrow path, glancing to his left as he did. The cliffs fell steeply to the rocks and the beach. 600 feet below him, the North Sea roared under the gusting wind, resembled polished steel in the January sunlight. The waves frothed and churned against the jagged rock formations, while above him kittiwakes, graceful and buoyant in flight, squawked stridently as they wheeled and turned against the pale sky. Hundreds of these beautiful white gulls with black-tipped wings made their homes on the cliff faces, and as a child he had watched them nesting through his binoculars. He shivered involuntarily, as a sudden remembrance of a tragedy of long ago hit him most forcibly. A man in his father's employ, who had been bird-watching, had plunged to his death from this very spot. Now, instinctively, Edward veered away from the precarious cliffs, headed in the direction of the dirt road which led across the moors and was much safer terrain. This morning, the moorland was dun-coloured and patched with slabs of frozen snow, and there was no question in Edward's mind that he much preferred riding up here when the weather was more benign, the air even balmy and filled with the scent of wildflowers and the northern summer light dazzling. Edward mentally chastised himself for taking his brothers out on this winter day. He had realised, rather late, that it was far too bitter, especially for Richard, who tended to catch cold so easily. He dared not contemplate his mother's ire if the boy fell sick because of this ill-conceived outing. Swinging his head, Edward saw that the boys had again slowed and were obviously fatigued by the long ride. He must spur them on, get them home without delay. He shouted, "Come on, chaps, let's get a move on!" and he set off at a brisk canter.